want to share with you what I think is one of the most important secrets about how to gain access to the expanded consciousness that what they call self-hypnosis can bring to you. I think self-hypnosis is not the best term to use. Learning to become absorbed in your experience, lost in thought. That's why we have an absorption inventory one can look at to see how easily is it for you to kind of forget where you are and be taken into whatever it is that you're experiencing. It's really the power of autosuggestion to be able to access the subconscious mind, not just to communicate with it, but actually to be able to use it as a mode of understanding and perceiving, which is what our soul uses, of course. Now right off, right here in this setting where we're under a bridge, and there is this life underneath the bridge, I think that that's a really good visual situation in which to share the secret, because in some sense this expresses the secret. Because just as we can ignore the traffic going by whenever it does and focus here on this beauty, we can also, as we relax, focus on our inner experiences and so on, and begin to, let's say, ignore our thoughts and judgments about what we're experiencing. The secret of self-hypnosis, in a sense, is that you can't be deciding if you're experiencing it and experiencing it at the same time. And so it requires a certain kind of surrender into it. Now, let me give you an example of this, because you've had a lot of experience in this act of surrendering to the imaginary experience and ignoring the realities around you. You see, if you're reading the Hudson's book, Laws of Psychic Phenomena, I think he does a very good job of explaining how the conscious mind just cannot deal with suggestion. It's an alien concept. Because the conscious mind, the sensory mind, we should say, because we can't bring the unconscious to consciousness, so let's call it the sensory mind, is a reality testing mind. So if you say to the sensory mind, you're holding an apple in your hand, the first thing it does is it takes that statement and checks it out. No, I'm not holding an apple in my hand. However, if you're able to communicate to the subconscious mind, and you say you're holding an apple in your hand, the subconscious mind will respond, yeah, I really like these green sweet apples. It's so cool, I can't wait to bite into it. Very different response. You have skills at this when you go to the movies, because you do not pay $10 to do reality testing at the movies to sit there the whole time and say, look at the number of people here. I wonder how many are eating popcorn, how many are eating hot dogs. Look at those colored patterns moving on the screen. Well, you know, that's probably, they call it a silver screen. It does reflect you. Oh, it does. They've done a nice job here painting on the walls and so on. Now that's reality testing. That's focused on reality. To look at the moving patterns on the screen up there and start laughing at the jokes and being scared and so on, becoming absorbed or mesmerized by what is going on in front of you from a meaning point of view, because from a sensory point of view, it's just colored patterns on a screen. But that's not how you process it, and that's not what you paid money to come and do, you know, to look at the walls of the theater and count heads. Now, there was an important experiment done at Berkeley, University of California, Berkeley, to show that the act of becoming hypnotized, let's say, is an active event. It comes about by the participation of the person in that which is being suggested. It doesn't come about by holding on to, you might say, the silent witness and sitting back. Now, in this particular piece of work, the researchers interviewed people who said that they were easily hypnotized and people who said that they couldn't be hypnotized, that they had tried many times, but it hadn't worked. Now, when he talked to the two groups, he noticed there was a lot of difference in just the way they expressed themselves. The people who couldn't be hypnotized, they would sound like this and say, well, I asked the person to do me, hypnotize me, man. I'm ready, come on, here, let's do it, here, I'm waiting, what's going on now, Whereas the people who were easily hypnotized, their attitude was more like, okay, let's go, what are we going to do now? You want me to raise my arms, dance, what? Let's go. So there was kind of a difference. So what he did was he took the people who said they couldn't be hypnotized and he brought them to the lab and he told them this little story, that he had some students who were going to flunk out because they couldn't hypnotize anybody. And he knew that these folks who had never been hypnotized, they kind of knew what that kind of frustration was like. And so they'd be very sympathetic and compassionate towards these students and be most likely to be willing to volunteer to help out. And of course, they agreed. So what the researchers said was this: here's what we want you to do. We want you to go in there and we want you to pretend to be hypnotized and, give them a good show. So their confidence will go up, I said, well, sure, we can do that, Doc, And so they went ahead and did all that and they come back. And he's talking to the people, and this is kind of the thing he was getting. The person says, well, Doc, I go in there, and I could see, why she might have trouble hypnotizing somebody, not exactly so dynamic. But there, I closed my eyes, and I kind of went along with it. She's doing the different things, my arms are heavy, and so on. And I was leaned back, trying to really, look like I was really kind of getting into it. And then, Doc, what happened was, a couple of minutes, it's sort of like I came to it, and I had been lost in this experience. What was that? What was that exactly? Doctor said, well, you had become hypnotized. By being willing to pretend, you see, they were willing to go along with it, and by going along with it, they produced this, a feedback kind of a loop. So when we're working with something, and I really like to start with the first formula, really in autogenic training, my right arm is heavy. Because there is a word, there's no fooling around and extra stuff. It's just a straightforward statement. My right arm is heavy. And what do you have to do? In order to get into that, you can't be sitting around saying, well, my arm should be getting heavy. I don't know. No, not like that. But instead, you say, my right arm is heavy. You say, oh, yes. Let us imagine it so. My right arm is heavy, I can just sort of imagine what that would feel like. And when you start acting as if, I can just sort of imagine what that would feel like. Your arm knows then how to relax the muscles, we're letting go, in such a way that then what's being imagined and what is being produced meet. And you have the suggestive effect. But this is a willingness to go with it. And if you find yourself hesitating or wanting to evaluate and so on, remember, the sensory mind is trained to reality test, and that's like a total anathema to this process. So just sort of have to maybe not try hard, but instead like enjoy. What would it be like to enjoy your right arm being heavy and take it from there? Okay? And because once you can start doing that and allowing yourself to participate, and then when you get to a point where how you are participating also becomes part of the spontaneity, you're getting into a real kind of an altered kind of consciousness that opens you up to other realities. And this is where this whole thing of what I call the intuitive part comes into play, because now we are in touch, you might say, with the subtle energies, the subtle stories and patterns that are going on. Okay, well, I hope that you enjoy exploring your right arm feeling heavy, and go from there. Okay, bye-bye.